Standard 1.1 and 4.2, ISTE Criterion 2 and 3. Changes in the earth. Project structure. The audience for this lesson was 6th grade students, and the subject was STEM. The length of this was 2 weeks, roughly about 10 days. The digital tools that were used included Gizmo, Nearpod, Google Forms, Desmo, Google Slides, Flip Video, and Canva. Students explored the processes of weathering, erosion, and deposition of materials and how those processes change the surface of the earth. Students also gained insight into how engineered structures on natural stream systems can impact the natural system. The following are the essential questions that students answered throughout the learning process. How can we, as geotechnical engineers, identify and design erosion control measures for our Gwinnett community? Where does erosion and deposition occur along a river? How can we design structures to lessen the impact of erosion? How can we strengthen natural building materials to lessen the impact of weathering and erosion? And lastly, how can we use my understanding of ratios to build bricks with sand and glue? Day 1, stream processes. For day 1, the teacher administered a pre-assessment probe to activate students' prior knowledge about how moving water, specifically rivers, can change the surface of the earth. The results of this probe were used to guide instruction to address misconceptions and gaps in understanding later in the lessons. The teacher then facilitated an open discussion to assess student current knowledge on the topic, and students explored how landforms are developed by processes of stream erosion using the Gizmo Exploration Guide. This gizmo allowed students to explore stream processes and develop an understanding of landscape evolution over time. For day 2, stream erosion and deposition, students completed a self-paced Nearpod lesson, which reviewed erosion and deposition and introduced students to the stream table experiment. Based on the pre-assessment, the teacher organized groups, assigned students to the different tasks, and assigned groups to the stream table experiment. Students completed the assigned experiment and recorded all observations in their STEM journals. Day 3, stream erosion and deposition. To start day 3, student groups presented their stream table observations to the class from the previous day. Then students worked through a Desmos learning module on stream processes and how stream channels change over time. Student work was embedded in the Desmos guided note presentation, and students interpreted, summarized observations, modeled results, and analyzed stream process phenomenon with their group. To wrap up the day, students completed a summarizer Desmos card sort at the end of the presentation. For days 4 and 5, it was stream design. For the next 2 days, students ideated and designed streams in their STEM journals based on their learning from the past days. They gave and got peer feedback on their designs as they were working, and teachers guided students as needed and helped them make connections from their research to their designs. Students who finished their designs early got to test their stream on the stream table. For days 6 through 8, these lessons, students used ratios to build bricks from sand and glue. They first predicted how changing the ratio of the ingredients in a brick could impact its strength. Then they listened to the read aloud of the 3 Little Pigs. Students were introduced to the project restraints and worked in small groups to create a set of 6 bricks from 3 different mixtures. While letting their bricks dry, students reflected on their brick building experience, following some guided questions such as, what steps did you take in the building process? What worked well? What could you have done differently? And discuss and describe the ratio of glue to water that you used for each of the bricks made. To test their bricks, students poured bottles of water on bricks, observed the effect of the water, and recorded observations on their student observation sheet, as well as testing the brick with weight. They placed brick pavers on each of the bricks to see if their brick could hold the paver. Students continued to observe how well their brick held the weight and recorded all observations on the student observation sheet. Lastly, students explored the unit cost of building bricks. There was a discussion on how engineers must consider the cost of materials when designing solutions, and students were introduced to the driving question: which of these bricks is the most expensive to build? Students worked through the ratios and percentages task to calculate the cost of bricks and then reflected on which brick they would choose to manufacture. Before students started working on their reflection, the teachers shared and gave students the two different rubrics for their final reflection. The students were leveled based on their pre-assessment data, and they were able to use this rubric to help them with their final reflection. On day 10, students reflected on their overall experiences in the learning unit. Students chose one of the following to create a summative reflection, either a Canva presentation, Google Slides, or a flip video. Students reflected on the following questions on erosion and deposition, how they can design structures to lessen the impact of erosion, and how they can strengthen natural building materials to lessen the impact of weathering erosion. And finally, did they enjoy the project? Why or why not? After recording their thinking and learning, students shared their presentations with the class. Strengths and weaknesses. This unit was a hit with the students. Each pair of students took ownership in their work and they were proud of what they produced. They liked that each day had a brief learning activity, which then led into the overall project reflection. The students liked each of the technology platforms included in the unit, and many students reflected on the gizmo activity as it had changeable variables to the activity that they could manipulate. The weaknesses were that many students expressed that they would have had liked more time to complete the reflection portion, as that was only one day. The students only chose to give minimal examples for their final project presentations. The students did what I did because that was the example that they were given. I wish I had provided the students with more examples of final reflections so that I would have received varying types of final projects.